Hi and welcome along. I'm the Gardener Ben with your next rose review, starting to mop up one or two of the later flowering roses now that didn't manage to flower in June. And today's rose is actually from European breeder Delbard and supplied here in the UK through Pepto-Bismol roses. And as soon as I show you the colour of this particular rose, there is absolutely no question how this particular rose gets its name. This one is called Pink Paradise, and just look at it. It is the most shocking candy Pepto-Bismol pink that I have ever seen in a rose. Really extraordinary colour, a radiating colour from these flowers that I have in front of me. As I say, bred by a European breeder Delbard and supplied here in the UK through Pepto-Bismol roses. It was introduced in 2011 and is actually a modern hybrid tea, reaching around 3 feet by 3 feet. But this particular rose has some really useful characteristics, and if you're new to roses or you may be a slightly haphazard gardener that might not be particularly focused on your watering, this particular rose is maybe one that you want to look out for, and maybe one that you wanted to try if you really like this strong, powerful fuchsia pink colour. And I say that because this is one of the few roses that's going to survive on a poorer soil. Maybe you've got a lot of builder's rubble about, maybe your soil is particularly free draining, you live near by the sea or in a pocket of shale or sand. This particular rose is going to do really quite well in full sun, so that's quite important. In full direct sunlight, getting between 6, 7 and 8 hours of direct sunlight per day, but will thrive on a fairly poor soil. So if your soil is not particularly great, or I say you're not particularly good at your watering, this strongly coloured rose may be something that you would be interested in. I say, let's get into this. There's a really lovely colour combination on this particular rose and it's really been catching my attention. Please do pay attention to the reel or the short that I'll post for this particular rose as well, along with the series of still pictures that I will post, because I always make sure that I post lots of information about the rose that I can, and you'll get to see one of the colour combinations in the actual photographs themselves, because the foliage colour on Pink Paradise is absolutely extraordinary. It's really dark olive emerald green, almost a gunmetal green, like an old Land Rover would be. Really dark, very high gloss, like you do often get with a lot of these modern hybrid tea shrub roses. Very glossy. There is a varied thorn count here as well. You can see the thorns are very tiny, laced backwards. They're not particularly dangerous. You see, I can handle this one. They do actually simply snap off beneath my fingers without actually causing me any harm, but the thorns actually do go all the way up the stems to the very back of the flowers. Now, if any of you are actually familiar with the peace rose, the world's largest #1 selling rose, launched after World War II, sold all over the world under very different names, but the peace rose it's known as. This rose looks very similar to that. The blooms on this are very much smaller, but this radiance of colour of this really strong cerise fuchsia pink, I say Pepto-Bismol pink, with this beautiful yellow cup behind it, is very synonymous of the peace rose. The buds themselves, I'll put the flower down for a moment, the buds themselves are a beautiful apricot yellow colour with this beautiful peachy pink tinged to the very top of they flush just before they open up. Really tightly curled, and they unfold to this semi-double flower. It's not double, it's not completely single, a semi-double rosette. So if you are interested in having pollinators in your garden, this looser formation on the rose petals, giving much more interest to a pollinator, things like a bumblebee or a hoverfly can actually get into the center of this flower, unlike they can with a huge really big double ones. But the color on this, absolutely extraordinary. I'll rotate that round for you and pick up this other bloom for you so you can see. Really strong fuchsia Pepto-Bismol pink, glowing there, radiating with color with this lovely yellow tinge running up the back. I'll see if, there we go, turn them both round for you. They really are very interesting. Not my normal style of rose, I must admit. This is not something that I would normally grow in the garden, but still incredibly pretty. And I say, its ability to grow on a poorer soil, taking a little bit more of a bit more punishment in the garden, is surely going to be a very good plus point to most people. This rose is going going to flower quite late on in the season. It had 1 or 2 blooms in very early in June, and I missed them, so I couldn't actually review the rose for you then. And it's now coming really into its stride in mid to July. Lots and lots of buds coming on the plant now as a bare root rose, only a year old in the ground, and already performing really well. I say very high gloss, very shiny foliage, really healthy. It's rebuffed all of the pest and disease problems we've had so far this year. So a really good, strong hybrid tea rose. But the biggest plus point with this particular rose, taking away its really strong colour, is actually its incredible fragrance. It's really warm. I don't think I've said this about a rose before. It's really savoury. So you're thinking about all of those warm spice flavours from, for instance, Morocco and Marrakesh. You're thinking about things like sandalwood, cloves. It's peppery with upper notes of nutmeg. It really is very pleasant, very different, very unusual. This is not the kind of fragrance you would normally find on a rose. Normally you're getting lots of citrus and floral notes from your roses. This one is very peppery, very woody, very warm, very spicy, and it's very strong. I'm going to be giving this rose a 7-star fragrance rating, which is very unusual. I haven't given out many 7s at all this year, and there's very few 8s and 9s about as well. But this is Pink Paradise, available through Peterbilt's Roses here in the UK, but bred by Delbard. A really interesting, I'm going to pick up this other flower for you, a really interesting modern hybrid tea rose, reaching around 3 feet by 3 feet, with the most incredible pink flowers with this beautiful yellow tinge to the back of them. Very interesting. So if this is your style and you're looking for something very powerful in the colour, Pink Paradise may be just the rose for you.